y'all, this is Amanda with She's a Mad Gardener, and today I'm going to be creating a spring-inspired wreath made out of macrame, out of sola flowers, which are flowers made from wood. I'm going to be creating it for my front door right here, and I can't wait to show you guys the process. Remember, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe and make sure you hit that notification bell so you get the latest videos as I upload them. Okay, I'm starting with a Dollar Tree wreath form that I picked up. So it's $1, obviously, at the Dollar Tree. It is 14 inches. I typically pick up a couple of these when they have them available. I also got a couple of bags of sola flowers, which are flowers that are made out of bark, pieces of wood. I picked up 2 bags, so I've used them for multiple projects, but I got them at Home Goods, which I love. Then I'm using some macrame yarn that I ordered off of Amazon. I'm going to be wrapping it around my wreath form. And then I also have some dried sphagnum moss that I'm going to be working into the design. The goal is to kind of have this really kind of nature-inspired spring wreath. I start by tying the end of the macrame yarn to the wreath and then pull out several yards of the yarn and go ahead and clip it at that point. And then I just start working it, wrapping it around the form. I mean, it's super simple, super easy. You can be messy about it and let things overlap and, you know, have a lot more texture. Or in this case, I made sure that all the yarn kind of lined up right next to each other. So it kind of created just a smooth look over the yarn. Once I got to the end of one piece of yarn, I just tied it to a new piece and kept on going. I didn't even try to hide my knots because I knew that this was going to be a soft, textural, asymmetrical look for this yarn. It really didn't take all that long, and I did enjoy watching some of my favorite YouTubers while I worked on it.
Finally respect myself. I shook off all the bad vibes, cut me.
Once I wrapped the macrame yarn around about 2/3 of the wreath, I stopped and I started laying out long strands of the yarn, approximately, I don't know, maybe about 3 feet long. I didn't really measure. I just kind of looped back and forth, and then once I had used up all the rest of the yarn, I went back with a pair of scissors and cut the loops on the end of each pile of these. So the next step, I folded one long piece in half, and then I opened up the loop on the end and pulled the 2 tails through the loop, pulling tight to make a very simple slip knot. So once again, I folded the long piece in half, I slipped it over the piece of wire, I opened up the loop, and then I pulled the 2 long ends through the little loop. And I did that over and over and over again until I kind of layered multiple knots over each other. I didn't want it to be all the same across. I wanted it to be unique and interesting. So don't feel like you have to do it perfectly all the way across. I just did a little bit on each of the wire endings because I knew I would be going back with some of the moss and sola flowers, and there was no need to cover everything and waste all of the yarn.
This is who I am.
Okay, now I've attached as many long strands as I want to, and so I started flipping everything over and soon realized that I could not see any of the pretty knots of all the different layers. So I was like, well, darn it. So what I ended up doing is reaching my finger through the wreath from the back and pulling one layer at a time through the opening directly below that. And by doing that, once I had finished, you could see all the knots of each of the layers of the yarn that I put on, which I liked seeing the knots. I liked the look of it. It just was interesting to see the knots because it just added another layer of texture. Now, if you don't want to see the knots, obviously you don't have to do that, but it was a solution that I thought added a little bit more personality to the wreath. Next, I took the dried sphagnum moss and I started working it into areas, specifically starting with the areas where you could still see the wire portion of the wreath. I didn't even bother gluing this, y'all. I just kind of stuck it through the different holes and kind of just wrapped it around the wreath. I was going to be going back with the sola flowers and those were going to be glued in place. So I thought, hey, I really don't need to use the extra hot glue. I hope to adapt this wreath for multiple seasons, so I didn't want to overdo it with the hot glue where it's going to make it difficult in the future. Once I had enough moss on there, then I started messing around with the sola flowers. I kind of opened each one up a little bit, utilizing my thumbs, and then I started placing them, messed around with several of them before I actually glued any in, just to make sure that I liked the look. I used a little bit of hot glue on each of them. This wreath was going to be in a shady place, so I was not worried about the hot glue melting in this Texas heat and falling off. But take a look at what I came up with.
I'm thinking back on all those times when I felt closed off from all that I could become, eager but too scared to climb. Wanted to please my friends, but it felt like the end of myself. I was shut down and all drained out. I was lost, so I had to change. Yeah, I shook off all the bad vibes, cut me loose from the pettiness they turned on me. But now I am perfectly free to be me. This is who I am. This is who I am now. No matter what they say, this is who I am. This is who I am now. They think that I have lost my mind, that I'm not being true, but they don't have a clue, 'cause this is me when I cut out all the shallowness and everything I suppress to fit in a small frame. But I won't play your game anymore, so I had to change. Yeah, I shook off all the bad vibes, cut me loose from the pettiness they turned on me. But now I am perfectly free to be me. This is who I am. This is who I am now. No matter what they say, this is who I am.
For For the next part, I decided to hang the wreath up on the door and then come back with a pair of scissors and cut basically two angles, one angling up to the right and one angling up to the left, and they kind of meet at the bottom in a point. And so I thought hanging up on the door would be better because I could see how all of the macrame yarn kind of laid out with one another. This was pretty simple. Make sure you have a really strong pair of scissors because this is not easy yarn to cut. I really love the end look with this whole design. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this project with me. It was super fun putting this wreath together. I love that I got to use a combination of elements, some stuff from Amazon, some stuff from the Dollar Tree, some stuff from Home Goods, just several different elements. And I really love the look and how natural it kind of turned out. Soft, natural, but a little bit unique. Not your same old wreath on the front door. I think that I can also repurpose this for multiple seasons. So I really think I can go back and tuck in some fall leaves and make it just this beautiful design for the fall. And I mean, so I think I can use it more than once, which is always a really good thing in my world. We don't have a giant house, we don't have lots of storage. So the more I can repurpose things, the better. As always, she's a mad gardener or decorator or anything else that she wants to be. Thanks, y'all.